Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Why Not Leadership Lead Different podcast. I'm excited to introduce you guys to our guest today, Marc Halpert. Marc Halpert is a self-described multipreneur. Since leaving the corporate finance world in 2001, he has started 3 different companies, one of which he's still operating. In 2010, he started this third company, Connect to Collaborate, to spread his LinkedIn and networking evangelism to train and coach others. In all of his LinkedIn training and coaching, he offers professionals the opportunity to better explain their brand and positioning on their LinkedIn profile pages, who they really are, and why them versus the competition. So you can see why we have him on the show today. As a LinkedIn trainer, Marc has been recognized as a high-energy speaker at national and regional conferences and an instructor to sales, marketing, and HR training departments at large and small professional service firms and businesses. His specialty is customized personal coaching, has helped individuals in all walks of life and industries to use LinkedIn to better achieve their professional goals. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Oh, thank you for having me, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited. You know, it's amazing that we're having an interview with a LinkedIn expert, and we met through LinkedIn, through our network, doing exactly the kind of thing that you probably recommend that experts do, right?
Yeah, in 2024, I have a new theme. It's called co-collaborate. So you can collaborate with anybody, and it's never going to be 50-50. It's always going to be you've been put into a situation and you feel like you're just pulling all the weight. Well, I only choose people to appear on their podcast, to work with them, to be sure that we have already gelled so that it's 51 and 51. The extra 2% is the magnetism that pulls us all together. So I just don't ask anybody to be on their podcast. Just don't ask anybody to do a co-presentation with me. I select who I want. And that's how I draw people, because they see that not a lot of people are doing this. So I guess the question is, why not do it? It's so obvious, right?
I love it. Yeah. Why not co-collaborate? Start with that question. You know, the people we want to work with are the people that are going to pull the weight, right? You know, who wants to be in an unequal partnership where you're doing all the work? And I'm sure you've had a lot of those in your career, Marc. And what drove you to make that decision to say, you know what, I want to start working with people who are we're in it together?
I've been doing this for 44 years. I have an innate sense of how I can either help somebody or I can make whatever they're looking to achieve a little bit easier by connecting people. I'm a serial connector. I love connecting good people. And I love nothing more than hearing great sparks come from it. Good sparks, intelligent energy sparks, and that they go off and do something else. So I've had several businesses. I've been in all sorts of industries in my career, but my most recent business in 07, 08, it was hard to find new clients. And so I decided I would really give a big push to LinkedIn. I've been doing LinkedIn for 13 years professionally. But if you go back to like 07, 08, I was doing it on the fly, kind of doing it when I thought it made sense, putting it down, not coming back to it for several months. But then I started going to classes and I started to see that I was able to teach LinkedIn not for dummies. You got the not, I got the not for dummies. And most were teaching LinkedIn for dummies. You put your mouse here, you click there, you try to fill in the blank, you move on. And it just didn't make any sense. This is about marketing and branding. And if you're not saying it right, you better go back and fix it, because no one's going to suffer the fool. No one's going to look at you unless you make them want to look at you. And no one can say it better than you can. So if you can't say it, you better find somebody like me to help you say it. But I talk to people who've been in business in very successful, very intelligent people, just not able to talk about themselves in a way that makes them really who they are, who they really want to be known. So nanoseconds of attention is all we get on LinkedIn right now.
Right.
And you know what? It was just announced today. LinkedIn's making a change. They're going to push the about section all the way up to the top card. So here, folks, is your opportunity. You're hearing this here first, fresh news. You better be able to talk about yourself in that long form elevator pitch called the about section, where you convince somebody to get off that elevator and say to you, "Can I have your card? I really want to contact you."
Man, that speaks so much to the work we do at Why Not Leadership. But today's not about Why Not Leadership, it's about you. But one of the things that struck me in what you just said and in your value proposition is, Marc, you teach organizations and nonprofits to talk about why we do what we do, not just what we do, so that the organization looks even better to donors. And I think that advice applies to not just nonprofits, it applies to all organizations. When we tell people what we do, this is a law of understanding your why. When you tell people what you do, they lump you in with everyone else who does what you do. When you tell people why you do what you do, you connect with them. So tell us about your process to helping organizations tell why they do what they do.
Okay, so we're talking about companies and nonprofits. We're talking about associations and membership organizations. We're talking about professional practices. We're talking about even people who are between jobs or starting a brand new business. You better be able to articulate what makes you stand out from the crowd. The word I call it is amazing-er. You and I could talk for a few moments, and I'm going to figure out some amazing things about you just by how you proceed. But you know what? I know 30 people just like you. Where do you stand out so you're top of those 30 people?
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I need a person who does this," what fill in the blank, whatever it is that you do, that mental Rolodex, that mental flip card going in my head comes to you immediately because you've made an impression on me. Mentally, emotionally, cerebrally, and I may not be able to remember your exact contact information, but I know where I can find you. And when I send somebody as a referral to your LinkedIn post, your LinkedIn profile, they better understand exactly why I sent you there. Mm-hmm. And if they don't understand why I sent you there, then they're going to say, "There's something wrong with Marc. I don't trust him anymore." And like I said earlier, I pride myself on making great connectivity. So you got to talk to people immediately. They don't give you any chance to fumble. You have to knock it out of the park first time at bat, or they disappear and they do not come back.
Yeah, you're so absolutely right, and you bring up a couple of really important things. I work with a gentleman who wrote a book called "Can I Borrow Your Car?" and it's all about referrals. And if you think about it, when you refer someone, it's like lending somebody your car. You're lending them your reputation. They're showing up because this is Marc's reputation. So I'm driving Marc's car, and that's his reputation. And do you want to return that car all beat up? So shout out to Mike Garrison, who wrote "Can I Borrow Your Car?" He equates it to that. If you borrow someone's car, you better bring it back in the same shape that you brought it in, if not better. Maybe you wash it and maybe you fill up the tank, right? So that when you send someone to my website or to my LinkedIn profile, I better show the best possible profile so that they say, "Hey, Marc, great recommendation," right? Not, "What were you thinking? That guy, I have no idea who he is. I don't even know why you sent me to him," right?
You're talking about a car. That's an asset. Okay. With all due respect to the author, that's a great analogy. We can all adapt to it. We can all address that. But you know what? I'm sending you to my most important asset, and that is my net worth, the wonderful people that surround me. Hard knocks. I learn the hard way. I learn from my mistakes. I only surround myself with the best. I don't connect to just anybody who happens to knock on my front door. I don't say, "Oh, come in. I'd love to have you enter my house." This is my reputation. You said the reputation. This is my net worth. Your network is your net worth. And anytime you have somebody in your network who isn't pulling their weight and the chain is weakened by that link, your net worth suffers. And if you look at your own financial statement and you know what you're worth, you know you're worth more than the dollar sign on the piece of paper. You know you're worth because you've had an effect on somebody else by bringing them the right set of people to trust in. Trust is a huge word here. So on LinkedIn, I can connect you to anybody, 1 billion people, but you don't need to know 1 billion people as much as some people are trying to connect to 1 billion people.
Yes.
And if you need something and you're in dire straits for it, I'm looking for somebody to give me an opinion on this. I need some guidance on that. If you have good, solid, vetted connections, you're going to get answers because you asked for it. But if you have 40,000 people, 18, 10, 20,000 people, I've seen people with all sorts of crazy numbers that they just connect because they're what I call promiscuous connectors. They'll connect to anything with carbon life force. Then I will guarantee you, you will not get the answers and they will not even respond to you because they have no skin in your game like you have skin in their game.
You know, it's something great you posted about recently, Mark. It was with regards to calling down that list, right? There, you know, we've all done it, and I'm going to mea culpa here. I used an automated system early in my LinkedIn experience that got me a ton of connections, and it also got me a lot of messages back that said, "You don't even know who I am. Stop spamming me." And I only had to get a couple of those before I said, okay, we got to stop this campaign because I don't even like getting one of those, much less multiples of those. But that grew my number and it made me look more credible, supposedly vanity, right? But those aren't as important as the real connections that you talk about, the real connections where you're actually seeing each other's information, you're following the content, you see value. And by the way, thank you so much for connecting with us here at Why Not Leadership and the Lead Different podcast, because you've said it more than once. You only connect with people that you feel bring you value. So thank you for that compliment, Mark. We are just getting started with this new venture. And so we really appreciate having you on. I know it helps that we're connected to Lanier and we were able to be on a program together with her, but that is so important. You gave a piece of advice on how to call the list. I'd like you to share it with our viewers and listeners today, and how to make that LinkedIn network even more powerful by getting rid of, as you said, those unnecessary connections that aren't really pulling their weight and aren't really adding value.
You may have connected to somebody, and at the moment it sounded right, felt right. And about a month or two later, you don't hear anything from them. You don't see anything from them. You might ping them and say, hey, cool article. I really like this. I thought I'd send it your way. You don't get a thank you. That's beginning to tell you that they're not really appreciating you. They're just collecting names and numbers. So what I do is I look backwards to the thousands of people I've connected to over these many, many years. And I look at the name that appears on my screen. And if I recognize them, I can tell where I met them. Okay, they're okay for the time being. But here's the real thing that I think you're going after, Dan, and that is everybody has a work anniversary once a year by definition, which means once a year, LinkedIn is going to send you a message that Marc Halpert has a work anniversary on February 1st, 2004. And Dan, you're looking at your profile and you see Marc Halpert. Who the hell is that? Well, he didn't work out. He promised me the moon and the stars. I promised to help him. He never got back to me. He never responded. You know what? It's his work anniversary. He doesn't need me. I don't need him. Because a connection is a privilege. And when you don't keep up your side of the privilege, the equation is unequal.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I tell people. Look at your work anniversaries coming across your screen every single day for a year. By the time a year is gone, and yeah, it's a long period of time, but if you have thousands of connections, you don't want this all at once while you're watching TV or at the beach. You're not going to do it anyway. You're going to be distracted. While they have your attention, look at all the work anniversaries. And if you have to say, I don't know why I even connected to this person, disconnect from them, go to their profile, click disconnect. They will not know you're disconnected from them. It's okay. They're going to probably wonder why they're connected to you too. And you'll see when the next time you look at their profile, they've gone from a first level connection to a second level connection. But that's okay. Surround yourself with good people.
Love that. That's just great advice. I think not just on LinkedIn, but also in life, right, Mark? So it's taking that real life advice. Surround yourself with people that, one of the things I used to say when Facebook first started, I used to say, I don't want to be friends with anyone I wouldn't invite to my home.
Exactly.
Right? If you wouldn't invite them and introduce them to your wife or to your kids, why would you be connected to them anyway? Right? So great advice. One of the things that I definitely want to talk about, and we always talk about it on every show, and we're kind of getting into it late, but that's okay because we're having such a good conversation, Mark, is your why operating system. So as you know, Why Not Leadership is powered by why. So everyone we work with, we help them understand their why, their how, and their what. And we had you go through that process. And what's really cool is we're very similar, right? We both
Oh, yeah.
believe our whys are to contribute to the success of others. And again, that's the discovery language talking. We both like to contribute to the success of others, make a difference. Our how is also similar. We both have the how of challenging the status quo, doing things differently. We've heard a lot of that from you today. So that really resonates. And then your what is better way to bring a better way. What you bring is a better way to do things. You like to find better ways to do things and then share them with others. So in a nutshell, you're somebody who wants to make a difference in the lives of others. And how you do that is by challenging the status quo, challenging them to look at things differently. And then ultimately what you deliver are better solutions. And then when you find those better solutions, you share them with others. So you've been just dissecting your why for 44 years. So you already knew a lot of this stuff, but
Yeah.
how has it played out in your life? You're implementing your why.
It took a long time till I got to be at the position where I could help other people develop their own why, and that's what really makes me go. That's the catalyst behind all of this. So when I became a LinkedIn coach, and I realized that the only way to differentiate myself is to be a positive disruptor, to make things different, and if people believe that I can help them do something that my next best competitor doesn't do as well, that gets me one extra foot in the door. So what I'll typically do is I'll sit with people and I ask 15 really hard questions and they answer them. And I'm listening for themes. I'm listening for threads. I'm listening for color. I'm listening for texture. I'm listening for something that I can help them weave their career tapestry together and give everybody a real great sense of their why. And it's their expression of why in their own words. I do not write anything for my clients. They do all the writing, whether they can write well or not. And for some of them, this is like pulling every tooth out of their head, but that's okay. It's a good experience for them to tell why they do what they do and why they are good and amazinger at what they do. And then we get an extra bonus on LinkedIn. You don't get this often in life. You have a set up structure to ask other people to add to your why. So in essence, what they're doing is they're saying how well you do, why you do what you do. And you can tear it apart. You can do it by skills. You can do it by globs of skills, combinations of skills. But if every recommendation you ask for on LinkedIn from a trusted colleague comes and tells a story of a time when you actually aced that skill, aced that why you do something well, then the other person's basically telling why you do it so well and adds that much shine, patina, texture to it, and it's memorable. People love, thrive, remember stories. Ask your recommenders to tell stories because there's nothing worse than reading a recommendation. Mark was really instrumental in helping my company. He is really good at what he does. Heh, no one cares.
Right.
Everybody can say that. I hope everybody says that after I've had something to do with them. Let them tell an exact situation. And that's really valuable. Same thing goes with endorsements on your skills. These are these one little flick of a switch where somebody says, Mark's really adept at whatever it is, LinkedIn training. Okay, that's good. But they'll put their name on their endorsement, and that's okay, but they don't tell them why and how they saw that and why that's important. When they write a recommendation, which is a limited, elite few people that you can love, they know they love you, you love them, they're going to put that love together on your LinkedIn profile, put their reputation and their story and their words on the line. then your why is even stronger because their name and everybody knows them, sees that they've been given you the recommendation. So a lot of people get confused. Who do I ask? What do I do? How many is too many? And you'll know who you can ask for recommendation. If they say to you, you write it, I'll sign it. Thank you very much. I'm going to go someplace else because
Right.
they're not willing to commit the time and the brain cells to help you. But don't just ask them to write a recommendation. Give them the structure of what you'd like them to talk about. Remind them the story. Remind them the situation. Focus on skills that you'd like them to highlight in the recommendation. That's called managing the recommendation. That's not
writing it for them.
Exactly. It's not ghostwriting. No one wants, because it all sounds the same if you write it for them. It's your voice. That's why I don't write my clients' profiles. It's to be my voice. They don't want my voice. I want their voice. I want to hear them as they speak.
That makes so much sense, Marc.
It's so simple. That's what's so amazing. We are so jaded right now as to feel that recommendations are BS. No one's going to read them. You know what? I know people who go straight to the recommendations to see who has recommended this person. Do I know them? Can I contact them? Can I get more information before I actually go the next step with the recommendee? And that's important.
No, it's so important. I bet this has to do with the 3 legs. I wanted to ask you. So you say you have 3 legs on your company stool. We talked about that in the pre-show. Tell us what those 3 legs are and how they're intertwined, because I want to see how that connects to what we're talking about.
Well, I work with individuals one-on-one, people who are stuck, people who are afraid of talking about themselves, people who don't know how to market themselves because they didn't learn it in whatever graduate school or college, wherever they went. I didn't learn it in elementary school all the way through my graduate courses. I only learned to talk about myself when I got out into business. So mostly they just don't know how far to go, how far is permissible to go, how far is too much. You need an independent sort of objective coach to say, okay, interesting idea. Let's reword this and repack it a little bit and see how we can play with it. And let's go back and forth and see where it goes. That's the thing I do. I love letting my individual clients work with me as I sort of coach them. If they don't get it, I say, okay, one more time around the track. Think about it while you're running. Work harder. Come back to me next week with it. And when they come back and they realize that they could have done more because I've given them permission and they've in a sense given themselves permission to talk about themselves, I find some of them just can't stop talking about themselves because they've waited all this time. It got pent up. Okay.
So you go from having no content to having too much content and a lot to pick from, which is great, right?
And let's talk about it and let's weave this in for the next iteration of your profile. You're looking to get into a new job. Let's talk about what you've learned along the way. Then you get the new job. Let's talk about how you got that job. So there are chapters in our lives that we want to talk about, but there are themes in our lives that we have to talk about. And the themes transcend the history. It's not, and it's always whatever I did in my past makes me who I am today. And who I am today gives you an indication of who I could be in our respective futures. Employer, our respective futures. Client, our respective futures. LinkedIn coaching client, all that. Second leg of the stool is I go into groups, organizations, law firms. I just finished with a technology firm. And basically the senior management realized that they didn't know what they could do on LinkedIn because no one ever taught them. Well, there's no place to be taught unless you get an independent coach to come in. So that's what I did. I gave them a course, a 90-minute course customized to just their industry and their needs because I had a conversation, several conversations with them ahead of time. What are you trying to ram home in 2024? What's the marketing thrust for the year? What are you trying to do the competition's not doing well at? What are you trying to do you don't do well at that you want to do better? What do you need everybody to say who takes the 90-minute course? So 90-minute course, everybody in the company got it. I said, okay, in 2 weeks, you are assigned to go and write your LinkedIn profile. Rewrite it on a Word document, section by section. Do not expect to do it the afternoon before we're going to meet that morning. That's not going to happen. And what we do is we meet one-to-one in a recorded Zoom session, just me and the individual, and they show me the day before what they've written so I can digest it and think about it and come back to them with suggested changes. And then we talk about the changes, they implement the changes, and they put it up on LinkedIn.
I love that. And I like what you're taking. I mean, you're talking, and I love that you used an actual example of a client you recently worked with. I had the opportunity to listen to Vern Harnish talk recently, and he talked about, he says, look, don't tell me the business you do. You're a law firm. We know that you're a law firm. I'm calling you because you are a law firm. Tell us what job you do for your market. What do you do for your market that's different? And I can hear, as I hear you talking, you do something for this market, Mark. So that's a great second leg. So you can, if you're a firm or a company that wants to use LinkedIn in their profile, not just for the firm, but for the individual members and connect better with their community, you came in and you were able to solve that problem. So you've got one-on-one, you got groups and organizations. So what's the third leg of the stool?
Third one is these wacky, crazy projects that people come up with and say, I'm looking for people on LinkedIn who are interested in whatever that may be. Okay. Say you're trying to start a brand new conference and you want to target market people who might want to attend that conference in some specific area. Well, you can really go granular on LinkedIn search and find people and market to them. Now, mind you, you have to have something of value to offer them. You're just not going to blast that out to everybody and their brother. That's just not a good idea. I had a client a few years ago, and this is, I guess, the best example of something that people need, but they don't know where to find it. She was interested in a riverboat that was offering her some staterooms and was going to sail from one port to another and stop along the way and look at royal gardens and horticultural expositions. Now that's beyond granular. That's microcosmic, shall we say. Okay, that's hard. Right. And she said, how can I find people who would want to spend that money, want to take this time and trip to educate themselves and be amongst other people of similar interests? And how can we do that? And we did it. And we marketed through LinkedIn. And these opportunities don't come up often, but they come up often enough that it's an absolute test of my capabilities and the capabilities of the organization offering whatever it is that they're offering to package something that will attract people. So they're one-offs, absolute one-offs.
Yeah. Well, before, we're coming up on the end of our time together, but I have got one question I want to make sure we get to, and that is something I think it's going to be very much of value to our audience. You talk about, how to make a bigger impact. Give us 4 ways to make a bigger impact in your posts so you can gain audience allegiance. We all want that audience that interacts with our posts regularly. You've got a great following that interacts regularly. And I know why, because I've been following your posts recently, and every time you post something, I want to comment. It's good, valuable stuff that I know my audience will also get value from. So give us those 4 tips.
And it's appreciated parenthetically. Thank you for that. So there's 4 things that make people come out of the woodwork and actually come and comment on. What do you know that they don't yet know that they need to know now? So I read this article about, did you know this statistic and how can you operate this, move this into your business operations, that type of thing. So I know this, you don't, you read me, I tell you this, you go have your time to implement this knowledge and let me know what happens. Okay? What do I know that you don't know that you need to know now? Number 2, what do I feel that you don't yet feel that you want and should feel and you want your connections to feel? Because everything that is a good feeling you want to spread. Let's take the third one, a little bit harder. What do I believe that you don't yet believe? But because I feel and know this stuff, I want you to believe and I want you to tell others to believe. And that sounds a little evangelical, but it's okay. Because if it's factually based and it's not bothering anybody to learn something new that way, it's not going to transcend any sort of internal biases, you're adding to their higher thought. And that's an important thing. Belief is a higher thought. And finally, the 4th one is, what do I do that you don't yet do that I want you to do? And that's your call to action. So for all four of these, I'll even say add a call to action for each one of them. Share this new knowledge you just got from me. Tell me about a time when you felt this and you may have been able to use this information. Tell me why you believe this now based upon what I'm showing you. And then finally, please do whatever it is. Please register for my session. Please buy my book. Please have a look at our conference coming up, whatever it is. So all of these are essential for human, intelligent, electronic communication in social media, especially in a business context on LinkedIn.
I know I'm having a good interview when I know already that I'm going to have to rewind and write this down in with even more detail, because those were such great points. And I love your third point when you talk about what do I believe that I want you to believe, because hey, I come from a long time at the Y Institute, and everything we did at Y Institute started with Simon Sinek's famous TED Talk. And one of the things he said, if you tell people what you believe, you're going to attract people who believe what you believe. And that goes back to a lot of what you've been talking about. You build your network with people that you can give and take from, and it's equal. And if they believe in 51-51 relationships, then you want to work with them, right?
It's
If
your
they
tribe.
believe, yeah, that's our tribe. Exactly. So that's so important. I want to finish with this question, because this is the key question. Why not leadership? We believe in saying, why not? Tell us about your biggest why not moment, Marc.
I was in corporate America. The company was bought. I didn't know what I was going to do. I always wanted to go out on my own because I just never felt like I fit in many of the jobs I had. And I was always encouraged by various people, you really ought to go out on your own. I said to myself, finally, why not? Just try it. Let's just try it and see what happens. Little did I know that I did it 2 days before 9/11. And then I was saying to myself, why the heck did you do that? And I met a woman and she goes, you know what? This is a grand opportunity for you to continue talking about your why. And I said, thank you. You gave me the why not. You made me believe something I didn't already believe about myself. Back to my 4 ways to communicate. And that was 23 years ago. And I haven't looked back since. And I could never work for somebody. In fact, when I go do some work in a corporate environment, I just feel the walls collapsing on me. I hear and feel the hierarchy and the backbiting and all the comments that are made. Well, that department doesn't know what it's doing. It's like, I'm not part of that. I am not going there. Do not expect me to be on anybody's side. I've lived through that. I survived. I had a full head of hair when I started. This is not for me. And I walk away and I say, okay, it's off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I do need to be sensitive to what goes on in the organization so that whatever the group training is and what they come to me with the accountability that 2 weeks later, that we're making progress. So I do need to be sensitive to that. So to me, it's go out on your own. I did that. I was very lonely. If the phone wasn't ringing, no one's coming to me. No one's asking for my approval on anything. It was me doing everything. I am now responsible for everything I say, do, act, do right, do wrong, don't do well as I could. I learned from it all. It's all about constructive criticism, and it's all about doing better. So why not do better the next time you get to play that skill card out of your back pocket? You throw it on the table like you're playing cards, and you say, okay, I'm going to put it away now. It's a little bit better than it was before I pulled it out the last time. Why not? Why not make yourself better?
Marc, I'm gonna, we're gonna have to give you the award for being on brand. You know what show you're on. You said why not more times than any guest ever. So we really appreciate it.
I am not a patronizing person.
No, you're not. But
I connected at that great level because we share common intellectual value. That's why it's so easy for me to work within your realm. It's simple because we both believe it.
It makes so much sense. Hey, Mark.
Why not? How do you like that?
You're right on cue, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, Marc Halpert, thank you so much for bringing your story, your enthusiasm, your energy, your experience. I know you and I are going to be continuing to co-collaborate in 2024, and I am so thankful to Lanier Johnston for bringing us together. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you, Dan.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.